The sea has always held mysteries beyond the comprehension of humankind. In the northern waters of Scotland, between the outer Hebrides and the mainland, lies a stretch of ocean known as the Minch. To most, it is simply a rough passageway separating land and island. But to the seafaring people of Scotland, especially those from the Isle of Lewis, it has long been considered a domain of the otherworldly. Among the wind-whipped waves and mist-covered tides, legends speak of strange blue-skinned creatures known as the Blue Men of the Minch. These beings, half human and half something else, are said to patrol the waters in search of ships to sink and sailors to drown. But who were these beings really? Were they spirits of the sea, ancient gods, elemental forces, or figments of storm-tossed imaginations? And why have they haunted the minds and tales of Scottish coastal people for centuries? Sailors' tales are seldom rooted in fiction alone. When a mariner swears by the presence of something unseen and unexplainable, it often reflects an experience too intense or peculiar to ignore. The legend of the Blue Men begins with oral tradition passed down through generations of Gaelic-speaking islanders. Descriptions are remarkably consistent: tall men with blue skin, muscular builds, long beards, and piercing green or grey eyes. They are often seen from the decks of ships before storms, their upper bodies rising from the sea, their expressions watchful, sometimes even smug. And they speak, not grunts or shrieks, but actual words, often in rhymes, riddles, and verse. They challenge ship captains to answer them in rhyme, and failure to do so supposedly grants the Blue Men the power to capsize their vessels. This peculiar feature sets them apart from mere sea monsters or weather spirits. The Minch itself, where they reside, is no ordinary body of water. It is treacherous even today, with violent weather systems, shifting tides, and unpredictable currents. But in ancient times, before advanced navigation tools, crossing the Minch was considered perilous in the extreme. Stories of shipwrecks, lost sailors, and mysterious drownings were common. And so the Blue Men emerged as the embodiment of those dangers, a mythic personification of maritime threat. According to lore, they dwell in underwater caves, surfacing only when the sky darkens and the winds pick up. They ride the waves like horses and sometimes appear to be herding the sea itself, commanding tides with hand gestures. Some stories say they wear kelp-like clothing and emit a faint, eerie glow in moonlight. But where did they come from? Some folklorists believe the legend is rooted in Pictish history. The Picts, an ancient people of northern Scotland, were known to paint their bodies blue with woad before battle. Others suggest Norse influence. Viking raiders and settlers left a heavy imprint on Scottish culture, and their mythology includes sea spirits, trolls, and elemental beings. One theory even ties the Blue Men to Islamic and Moorish mythology, linking them to North African captives brought to the Hebrides during Norse expansions. The story goes that these men, foreign in language and skin tone, were seen as supernatural beings by the locals, especially if they arrived during storms or shipwrecks. Over time, their presence may have been woven into local legend, transforming real individuals into mythic creatures. The connection between the Blue Men and rhyme is particularly fascinating. According to tales, when a ship is sailing across the Minch, one of the Blue Men will call out in verse, something like, "Man of the black cap, what do you say, as your proud ship cleaves the brine this day?" To which the captain must reply in kind, "My words are few, but my will is strong, and I'll not drift to your tune or song." Failure to answer with cleverness or meter supposedly dooms the vessel. Some have interpreted this as symbolic, perhaps a metaphor for a captain's intelligence and readiness. A clever man might outmaneuver a storm, a dull one would perish. But others insist that the challenges were real, that witnesses heard the rhyming voices carried on the wind and saw the Blue Men dive beneath the surface when bested. Encounters with the Blue Men are numerous and widely varied. Some are direct sightings, blue-skinned beings seen rising from the waves before a violent gale. Others are less visual, strange sounds echoing across the sea, ships suddenly thrown off course, or unexplained disappearances in calm conditions. These are not the vague accounts of distant ancestors, either. As recently as the early 20th century, local sailors swore they had felt unseen hands gripping the sides of their vessels or seen eyes watching them from beneath the water. The blue men are not considered evil in the demonic sense, but rather tricksters, forces of chaos, bound by rules, but always dangerous. They do not kill for sport, but for control, for the balance of the sea. Local lore suggests they have a leader, often referred to as the chief of the blue men. This figure is described as taller and more regal than the others, wearing a crown of seaweed or shells. Some say he speaks in full poetry, with an eloquence that bewilders human ears. He commands the tides and decides when to let ships pass or perish. The chief's presence is often associated with larger storms or rare sightings of the entire troop of blue men, numbering in dozens. Occasionally, people have reported seeing their hands reach for ropes, pulling at sails, or slapping against the hull like playful but deadly jesters. Skeptics and folklorists alike have tried to explain the blue men in scientific terms. Some argue that the phenomenon may be the result of hallucinations triggered by exhaustion, salt exposure, or extreme stress. Others suggest mirages or optical illusions on the water, but this fails to explain the specific consistency of the stories, the rhymes, the blue skin, the leader, the underwater caves. A few marine biologists have speculated that sightings may have involved unknown species of large sea creatures, possibly mistaken for humanoid forms. Bioluminescent organisms, for example, might cause strange glowing appearances in the water. But again, none of these theories account for the spoken verse, the interactive intelligence, or the cultural specificity of the tales. The legend of the blue men is not confined to the sea. It has permeated Hebridean culture through songs, poems, carvings, and storytelling traditions. Children grow up hearing the tales, and local festivals sometimes reference the myth. In recent years, the blue men have appeared in Scottish literature, art, and even tourism promotions. There are boat tours in the Hebrides that speak of their realm and sometimes pass over spots said to be hotbeds of blue men activity. Some divers claim to have seen carved stones in underwater caves off the coast, though no photographic proof has ever emerged. Whether these are real artifacts or just imagined signs, they fuel the belief that the blue men still lurk beneath the waves. Comparative mythology reveals similar figures in other cultures. In Norse myth, sea spirits called Marmanil or Havmand resemble the blue men in behavior and appearance. In Japanese folklore, creatures called Yumibozu appear during storms and destroy ships. Even in Greek myth, the sirens and sea gods share similarities. Yet the blue men remain uniquely Scottish in flavour. Their riddling nature, the cold blue hue, and their preference for the Minch waters make them distinct. They are a product of geography as much as imagination. Some believe the blue men are elemental spirits, personifications of the storm itself. In Celtic spirituality, the sea was sacred, a realm of the gods and the dead. Perhaps the blue men represent guardians of this threshold, preventing unworthy or unwise men from crossing between realms. Others argue they are fallen angels, cast out of heaven and condemned to haunt the waters. This echoes Christian reinterpretations of older pagan myths, an attempt to explain strange old tales in a newer religious framework. Yet there is a final, more haunting theory, that the blue men are not spirits, nor myths, nor hallucinations, but something else entirely. Some fringe theorists suggest an alien origin. Strange lights in the sky above the Hebrides, sudden electronic malfunctions at sea, and unexplained electromagnetic readings in the Minch have led to speculation of extraterrestrial involvement. Could the blue men be visitors, monitoring human activity from the depths? Could their rhymes be encoded messages misunderstood by human minds? This idea is, of course, controversial and unsupported by science. But in the world of legend, possibilities are measured not by proof, but by wonder. Today, the blue men remain a symbol of Scotland's wild spirit. They are the guardians of a seascape that refuses to be tamed. For fishermen and sailors, they are reminders of humility: respect the sea, or be claimed by it. For tourists and storytellers, they are enigmas to be celebrated, feared, and preserved. And for children of the Hebrides, they are whispers in the wind, shapes in the mist, and voices carried on the tides. Whether as myth, metaphor, or memory, the blue men of the Minch continue to haunt the northern waters. Their story flows like the sea itself, deep, dark, and forever moving. So, if you ever sail the Minch, and the sky turns grey, and the waves begin to speak in verse, listen closely. You might just be answering the challenge of the blue men. And you'd best have a rhyme ready.